WN Skura of the Baltimore Ravens. You can hear all of the pieces of that in the buyatoyota.com audio vault. All of our live shows, swabbings, and we did swab some folks at Patrick's on Tuesday night in Essex. All brought to you by Fremont Mortgage. Don't make a 30-year mistake by choosing the wrong lender. You need the right lender. My friend Carl Delmont's been standing by us through the thick and the thin, and of course he's got the Harrisburg Heat and the Healy family up there. And of course our swabbings and community series brought to you by our friends at Cole Roofing. And this is the time of the week where Bill Cole joins me for therapy. First off, I'm trying to get my voice back here and trying to get ready for Atlanta GA this week and some big personal doings I got happening here later in the month. And I've been doing radio a long time here, man. We haven't had quarterback controversy here much, have we? Like where the fans every day are, talking to each other and your roofers are talking to each other about who's going to start, who should start. And everybody's got a pretty, fair argument, I would say, on either side of this, right?
Yeah, I don't hear anybody clamoring for Joe. I think they're all a little nervous about the plan with Lamar, and I think we sort of reassured the fact that success happens if we run, because we tried something else for the first half, and that didn't necessarily work, and then we turned the running game back on, and everybody loves the running game in Baltimore, so that works for us.
Well, there's a running game, then there's your quarterback, running into traffic and acting as a human pinball, which the first couple of weeks of this, we've won football games, against bad defenses, but I do wonder what happens when he starts doing that 18 to 21 times against the Pittsburgh Steelers every week.
I kind of assumed that RG3 was going to start last week, and then we would just have this alternating thing, where they get like 2 weeks to heal because they're going to carry the ball 20 times a game. So you just run RG3 out 1 week, you run Lamar out the next week, and just go back and forth, and it's no longer a thing because all you're really doing is read option running anyway, so you just need somebody to run it.
It is interesting from Marty Morningwig's perspective, as well as Harbaugh, and I'm sure Marty's more the mad scientist with all this, about Gus Edwards, right? Like, if we're going to have this kind of a quarterback, we need to have that kind of a running back, right? That Alex Collins, and I know he had some injury issues as well, has just been, forgotten about with the Irish jig. They brought Ty Montgomery in, and obviously when Ozzie did that deal, was thinking along the lines of, hey, this guy can help us right away, and we're going to run it differently when Lamar is in there. Have a different kind of groupings and pairings and Nick Boyle and blowing up holes, and it's different personnel and it's different technique for all the offensive linemen as well.
Yeah, we don't have the time, or maybe you do, but I don't have the time to analyze the schedule moving forward. So if you knew you had some problems coming, but you looked ahead and you saw weak defenses against the run, then Marty was already game planning that direction. I think the Oakland thing, the first half was they're weak against the pass, so let's get him out there and let him fling it around, and let's see if we have some success. Oh, that didn't really work. Let's just go back to what we know how to do with him. So if you're playing some weaker running teams, I don't know. I can't tell from our vantage point whether this is about trying to scrape out a decent season, get to the playoffs, or
listen, hold on. You scrape out the decent season like Jacksonville did last year, like Buffalo did last year, and you get into the playoffs, and let's say it rains sideways or snows sideways, or you go down to Houston and Deshaun Watson has a hangnail or has the flu the night before. There's so many things that could happen once you draw the golden ticket and have to go to Houston or Pittsburgh. We've seen it around here, and certainly Joe has been as good at those games as any of these games, and I've said this all week, and I know Joe's not going to play in Atlanta this week, and we've talked about it in hypotheticals, and Joe is not taking his last snap here if this team is going to make noise. You know what I mean? I would be shocked if this offense, as it's constructed next week, could go to Kansas City and do a number on them. They have more speed. They're going to score more points. It's going to be outside. Cadence, and we talked to Matt Skura a lot about that on Tuesday night, about being able to hear yourself in another environment, that it was good for Lamar. that, Matt said you could hear everything being said down on the field when you're home. Now, when you're away, maybe not. I told about I take care of Atlanta this week. I'll get everybody in the bar down there in the dome, and it's not that loud of an environment anyway. They're 4-7. There'll be a lot of empty seats. Not going to be that way in Kansas City, and I don't know about San Diego with 28,000 people showing up in Carson. I keep calling them San Diego just because it feels good.
Right.
Yeah, but I would say this. These are all the things we're talking about here, all the things any fan would talk about here. Imagine what it's like to be the defensive coordinator on the other side, to try to have to plan for all of this in 3 or 4 days. There's now some tape on Lamar. There's some running tape. There's some throwing tape. There's no doubt that a defensive coordinator wants him to throw the football up in the air, right? Like, unlike Joe Flacco, we want to do everything we can do to keep him from throwing the ball. We want to sack him. We want to pressure him. We want to get in his face. With Lamar Jackson, it's, well, let's get him out there and razzle-dazzle. He'll throw the ball up for grabs. That's the way a defensive coordinator thinks about it.
Yeah, I guess my question is, do you see any value in making the playoffs and losing in the first round?
Sure. Because we got there and had a chance.
Okay. I mean, to me, that sounds almost like we're trying to save our job if we can make it to the playoffs. Because, nobody's playing to make the play. I guess they're playing to make the playoffs because if you don't make the playoffs, you have no chance of winning the Super Bowl. But
I think you play every single week in the league, and this is 23 years of experience, and you always say, well, you know a little more than me because you're in there. I think every single week they're playing to win this week. And I think Chris Pike always says that when he's on because he worked in the league for 10 years. And, the most important thing they can do this week is beat Atlanta. And if they can do that, then they get to talk about beating Kansas City. And if they lose to them, then they have to talk about winning out, right? And so all of that, and then you have to scoreboard watch. But I really think the 100,000-foot picture of playing Lamar is this. Joe's hurt. And this has been an opportunity. And, yeah, he's the guy of the future, but is he the guy of right now? Is he going to look like Nathan Peterman when he gets out there and there's real bullets? And he hasn't, right? I mean, he hasn't looked overwhelmed by this. He certainly looks like a different skill set than Joe. And if you're comparing apples to oranges, you're always going to have a different fruit, right? But I would say for the result of W&W, that builds confidence for everyone, including me and you. It should, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think he can handle it, right? Like, I think he has a lot of college snaps, and he played in big games, and he played against tough teams. Maybe he wasn't an SEC quarterback, but I think he can handle the environment. I guess I'm more interested. I believe you when you say all the players and even the coaches are, we got to win this week, and looking beyond that is pointless. Maybe going into the bye, they have a half-hour conversation about doing some stuff for a week, but beyond that, it is week to week. So I agree. But from a GM and a management standpoint, that's where I'm curious as to at what point they start planning.
Well, from a management standpoint, if you're Bisciotti, are you saying, do you want to make the playoffs this year or not? I would think Steve would say, yeah, because I saw what the Philadelphia Eagles did last year, and, I saw what we did in 2001. I think Steve even says, I'm not tanking in on a season when we're 4-5 and firing my coach and doing backwater Browns, Raiders, Cardinals nonsense. You know what I mean?
I agree.
So
I agree.
So now that they're 6-5 and they're favored to win in Atlanta, and then what? Now they're 7-5. I mean, you think you can be 11-5, and you think that's just the way you think, and you think Pittsburgh might lose to New England 2 weeks from now, and they have tough games too. So
it wouldn't be a shock to me. Like, it wouldn't be the strangest thing that ever happened to the Ravens if you deploy a crazy, very different running, focused attack and ring off, what do we have left now? 5 games, right? Or 4 games? Run off some wins in there, make the playoffs, add a few wrinkles. I understand that I think Lamar can be successful throwing the ball at the point where all the safeties are concentrating on is whether to tackle him running or the running back running, and you're throwing the ball from a surprise standpoint. I think Lamar can probably do that, right? Like he can fling it.
I think Lamar's best weapon will be in Joe's offense when he throws 3 passes a game that or takes off and runs for 8 yards or 10 yards. I mean, he clearly is, as Harbaugh said 3 weeks ago, he's the most explosive player on the field every time he touches the ball. And the fact that he doesn't want to be a wide receiver and doesn't want to be a running back, he's a running back and a wide receiver and a tight end on every play when he takes off. I know he wants to chuck the ball, but they don't want him throwing the ball 40 times a game. So when Joe gets right, your best chance to beat Kansas City is to the same game plan that you talked about, right, in May and June and July and August and September, which was the offensive game plan we saw the Saints come in here and kick our ass with, right, 6 weeks ago, which is have that kid out on the field 18, 25 snaps a game. And somewhere in there, he throws it 3 to 5 times and runs it 8 to 10 times, and somehow we're in a 35-31 game in the fourth quarter, right? I mean, that's all you can hope for 2 weeks from now.
Yeah, I'm not sure I hold much hope for a Kansas City game, but everywhere else,
sounds like you've seen them play.
You're going to score. I just don't think you can keep up with them. But I think everywhere else, you're right. You mix in the same game plan that they had originally. He's now better. You're more likely to get a weird pass from him, even though he's in there theoretically to run. But think of the guys that are totally gone now, right? Like Willie Snead. I don't know if he's even sniffed the ball in 2 weeks, and he was turning into be, the go-to middle of the field receiver guy that gets you a tough 8 whenever you need it.
Well, that's all wonderful, but they won the last 2 weeks, right?
Yeah, I get it, right? Sure. Well, but who'd they play?
Fair enough, and that's going to be the retort every time, and until we think we're going to go to Kansas City and win with Lamar Jackson, we don't think we're going to go to Kansas City and win with Joe Flacco, right? So because we haven't done a lot of that in the regular season. That being said, give me Joe second week of January out there on a 28-degree day, and Willie Snead might run wild for 7 catches and 115 yards, right? Like that's certainly possible. All of this is possible, which is probably why for Bisciotti and Harbaugh and Eric and John, they've seen this team go out and look good. We've seen this defense go out and sack Marcus Mariota 11 times. We've seen Terrell Suggs turn it on and turn it off, and Judon turn it on and turn it off, and the secondary locked down. This is an interesting week for the defense because, as I've said all week, all the oxygens are about Joe and Lamar and Joe and running and passing and Marty and John's job security. The thing that's going to get the team to the promised land beginning this week on the road is the defense. And if Julio Jones is going to go out there and go 13 for 198, they're going to lose.
I'm not sure that it makes for a good conversation if you and I are constantly in vehement agreement here. But you're totally right. I mean, I don't really care which quarterback they run out there. If you play really good defense, because Matt Ryan, he'll run it up on you. They've got weapons. They can score a lot of points. They don't seem to be able to stop anybody. So, I don't hope it doesn't turn into one of those, and I hope we can get, 5 or 6 sacks. So I think you're right. I think it's all about the defense. If we can go back and find that defense we had in September, then that gives you so much room for error with having 3 and outs because you ran 3 run plays and, you just didn't get anywhere. And, you run the defense back out and you get the ball back and you go try it again. And, I think the defense is clearly more important at this point. So I'm in agreement.
Bill Cole is here. He is Cole Roofing, only 99 7/8. It's like 11 twelfths now almost, right? I mean, it'll be 100 years beginning next year. Cole Roofing. Tell everybody what you do about getting on people's roofs. And nobody wants to get on a roof this week. Too damn windy, right?
Yeah, it's tough out there, but, that doesn't mean that roofs stop taking the abuse and need their TLC. So for just about 100 years, we've been taking care of the commercial roofing community in Baltimore. Everything from, emergency leak calls to roof replacements. We do schools, hospitals, shopping centers, any kind of commercial properties.
Every time you say leaks, I laugh. And you know why I laugh? Did you ever see the ad from the 1960s? It was in an Oriole program, believe it or not, back in the 60s. There are 4 guys against the wall urinating, and it was a plumbing company, and it said, "We take leaks seriously."
I think that's a
so every time you say leaks,
funny advertisement. I'm not sure you can use that advertisement in today's world, but
could I say that in your ad next year? You know what I mean? Like, can I make that the new catchphrase for you? Let me see if that's copyrighted or anything like that. We take leaks seriously. I'll go to the images and see if if some plumbing company in South Baltimore in 1964 was the only one that ever used that. Believe it or not, we take leaks seriously. When you pull it up, there's nobody using that. I just gave it to you, dude. There it is. Cole Roofing, 100 years. They've taken leaks seriously. How about that? Is that good?
Yeah. I mean, it is no understatement that when someone has water coming in their building, it turns into like
it's serious.
The biggest catastrophe that's happening,
and you show up there like a priest, like literally, right?
Well, right.
Like you show up, the water's coming through, the place is destroyed. Office managers going crazy, insurance companies on the phone, right? It's you don't usually show up to calm in that case, like, right?
Well, yeah, but it's not funny, but the challenging part for us is we talk with our guys a lot. They walk into that scenario every day. So that it's like a constant refocus to make sure that we have compassion for people.
Oh, brother, man! When the docs told my wife she had leukemia, I mean, the door shuts, they walk out, and I'm thinking to myself, you do this every day. Like, it's crazy. I mean, I'm a pretty emotional cat about all that, but I can imagine when things have gone wrong with me, when pipes have burst, washers have exploded on me, roofs have blown off at my mother's house, and I'm like, I know Bill Cole. Let me call him. It wasn't a good day the day my mom's roof blew off back in March.
Well,
right?
Sure, but for them, and this is everything in the world, right? Like the day before, they were in a place that was really, really bad. So now they come into one that's like, sort of disruptive.
This is a garden variety roof blow off.
Right. And they have to understand that, that for that person, they didn't experience that worst one the day before. This is the worst thing in their universe. And to just try and give yourself a moment of perspective and put yourself in their shoes, we preach that all the time because it's really hard to just kind of remember that even though this one doesn't look as bad as the last one you came from, it's really bad for those people. And, we just have to be empathetic. And
then you fix it in 3 weeks, 6 weeks, 6 months later, whenever it is, they say thanks. And for 100 years, they've been doing that. So, Cole Roofing, you can find them. I drink the coffee out of the mug. Of course, this is the Kona blend from Royal Farms, real fresh, real fast. Get on out there and make sure you're using the Rofo Rewards card and app as well when you're pumping your gas. You'll get your points, and then you get your fried chicken, your Western fries, your Kona blend in the Cole Roofing mug free of charge. It's Royal Farms, real fast. Real fresh, real fast. I confused that. It's the holidays. It's too much eggnog. Anything on the Orioles for me this week, or are you, I think I've sold more copies of Astro Ball for Ben Reiter than anybody. I gave my orange highlighted copy to Lucas on Tuesday night. I'm sure he'll be pouring through that this week. But it sure is quiet on the baseball side, isn't it, right?
Well, I think what was curious to me is it just in talking, to people or whatever, and maybe it's because I talk to you fairly regularly, but they're at the place in time where it doesn't matter what they do, people are skeptical and think it's stupid. So I'm kind of looking at this guy as, hey, that's a nice change of pace, hopefully a breath of fresh air. You know what I mean? Like,
well, you get the feeling Mike Bordick or Rick Dempsey aren't going to be the manager this year. You know what I mean? Like, and that's the way it's been around here all of our lives, right? So...
Well, I'm not convinced that Dempsey isn't the right guy. We probably have to need another hour or two on that.
That's next week. I like that. When the Ravens get eliminated, you and I will argue about whether Rick Dempsey would be a good manager here in 2018.
Yeah. All right, we'll save that one.
It'll be 19 in 2 weeks, right?
19.
2019.
Oh, right.
It'll be 100 years for Cole Roofing. I'm just reminding you. It's early, man. I'll tell you what. We're going to get you caffeinated for next week, all right? We're going to get the 7-5 here. By the way, you think they're going to win this week or you think they're going to lose?
I am genuinely worried. I just am not convinced that we're going to be able to slow them down, and he's just going to fling it all over the place. And if we stumble at all, we won't be able to keep pace.
By the way, he hasn't flung it all over the place the last 3 weeks, and the offensive line's been leaky, and unlike Lamar Jackson, unlike Joe Flacco, quite frankly, I don't ever see Matt Ryan running around. You know what I mean? So hitting him, sacking him 3, 4, 5 times, that's the game right there. Getting the ball out of the air once or twice. Because Julio Jones is going to kick our ass, right? I mean, Julio Jones is going to catch the ball 8, 10, 12 times for 80, 100, 120 yards. It's what happens after he catches the ball, right? That you hold him to 3 points, that it doesn't become chronic, because he's going to get his.
If we can make sure that Judon knows what down it is so that he doesn't go to the locker room early, then I think we'll be just fine. Because I think he's a man-child on the field right now.
Well, and he's emerging, and that's, in week 12, 13, 14, you want to look up and say, who are our players? Hey, by the way, we had Matt Skur out on Tuesday, a guy that's getting better by Pro Football Focus grades, young players emerging here, tight ends, a bunch of guys in the offense, Lamar. There are some signs of life. I need to see signs of life from the Weddles, the Jeffersons, and I know he had his issues last week and this week as well, and Jimmy Smiths and the veteran guys, C.J. Mosley, Brandon Williams, being impact players now. It's December. It's go time. You're above 500. If the season ended today, you're in the playoffs. I want to see a really good road effort for them all the way around. Even if they don't win, I want to see them play well in Atlanta on Sunday.
Yeah, I don't want to remember that Zeus Jr. is our right tackle, because I was reminded of that a number of times last week, and that means that he's screwing up. So I don't even want to remember that he's our right tackle.
You don't want your name called by the guy in the black and the white, right? Exactly.
Yeah, well, and you got to figure he's feeling that, that rookie friction right now, and he's got to power through that, because you're definitely going to need him to play well.
All right, brother. Well, you rest up. I know it was a happy turkey holiday. You're out of Cole Roofing doing your thing. You can find Bill Cole at ColeRoofing.com. They do roofs. He does therapy for me. I didn't feel like I was in need of major therapy. I read a good book on these leaders with the Orioles. The Ravens won. I'm going to Atlanta. Right. It's Christmas time. I've got eggnog from Royal Farms in my fridge with my coffee. So I'm good right now. I'm staying calm through this period, because I think most people believe they're going to lose these next 2 games and we're going to go off the cliff. And if they win one of the 2, we're still alive. And if somehow they've got a 3-point lead in the fourth quarter next week against Kansas City, we'll be having purple pop-up tents around here again, right?
That is true. I think it's funny that if Lamar would have lost 2 games, how the conversation would be different now. So,
first off, the conversation would be we're 4-7, right?
Right.
And we would be where Atlanta is at 4-7, and the conversation would be who's going to coach the team, because John would be getting fired, right? It would be a lot different. I mean, it really would be, right? But you win 2 with a rookie quarterback, and there's signs of life, and there's a chance to beat Atlanta and a bad defense, and a chance to extend the season further. So I'm all for it. Bill, we'll see you next Wednesday, man.
All right, thanks, brother.
Bill Cole. Cole Roofing, 99 and 11/12. Did I say that right? Yeah, 99.8 something if you're adding it up. They will be 100 years next year. Cole Roofing, one of our sponsors. Dig them. You can find me, Nasty, at WNST.net. I'm on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Snapchat, Instagram. Streaming live on our Facebook as well as our YouTube, WNSTV channel. We are WNST.net, AM 1570, and WNST Towson, Baltimore, and we never stop talking Baltimore sports.